Hello, everybody. Hello. So year three. Hello, it's Mr. Huxley here, and it's a little bit different today because I've got we're going to have like a virtual kind of assembly, a virtual meeting with two very interesting people that I'm going to introduce you to. Hopefully, so far you've seen the PowerPoint I've sent through for you to look at on the suffragette movement and why we're going to have this conversation now. So I would like to introduce you to Denise. Hello, Denise.
Hi.
Hi. And Jean as well. Hello.
Hello.
Can I start with Jean? So it's just it's a Mary Clarke. So I think the children will be interested in because when I was looking for PowerPoints on the suffragettes or information for which were child friendly, nothing really came up of in a Mary Clarke at all. So it was, and then that made me look further myself, but there's nothing kind of out there about her. So I was interested, how does she come into your world to begin with, and kind of what's your role in the whole kind of project of the sculpture? Is that okay?
Well, it's really fascinating because back in 2018, that was the centenary, the 100 years since women had first got the vote. Some women got the vote as a result of the suffragette struggle. And I believed, as did I think most people in Brighton, that we really hadn't had many suffragettes down here, that there'd been a couple of incidents in the Dome, but really not very much at all. But when I started looking, I discovered actually there had been a very, very active group down here. There were a number of people. And the other thing that was being under discussion at the time was that there were a lot of statues of men, but virtually no statues of women. And that's true throughout the country, but also here in Brighton and Hove. And so we started to think, we got a group of women together, and we started to think about what we could do. And in the course of sort of investigating, I found a brief reference to Mary in the back of a book that she had been the first to die, and that she was Emmeline Pankhurst's sister. And of course, Emmeline Pankhurst is the most famous suffragette. And I just found it absolutely extraordinary that she had disappeared. There was nothing about her. And the more I looked, in a sense, the less I could find. And that seemed to me a good place to start, because I think in Brighton, we're interested in radical movements. And here was this person who'd been involved in a radical movement who'd actually died for her beliefs, but had been completely forgotten. And as we searched, we found more and more about her, that she'd lived in Victoria Road in a bed and breakfast. Sorry, do you? Okay,
Victoria Road, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
So you can actually see her house. She was only here for 2 years, but that she was a most remarkable person. She was artistic. She wasn't as charismatic, glamorous as Emmeline. She wasn't as good a public speaker, but she was absolutely crucial to the movement. She was one of the people who set up the Women's Social and Political Union with Emmeline Pankhurst. And she became an active organiser for the group down here in Brighton, was employed down here, used to sell the suffragette newspaper down on the seafront.
Okay.
And had a lot of abuse and heckling from hostile people, but was apparently, all the accounts of her say that she was always very calm, always very humorous, responded and actually got the crowd on her side by being extremely rational and extremely charming. She was extremely brave as well, although she was quiet. There's more than one account of her going in where other people were under attack and going in to assist them, and being threatened. And of course, that led to her death, because she was at the big demonstration, which is called Black Friday, which is, as River from the All Classes pointed out, isn't about sales, the American idea of cheap clothing on a Friday. It was a day that 300 women were very badly beaten by the police in front of Parliament, and they were assaulted in all sorts of really horrible ways. Several of them were very severely injured, and 3 people died as a result of it, though not immediately. The first of those was Mary, and she was in bed for 3 days afterwards. Then this is an indication of her strength and courage. She, against people's advice, she said she must go to London and protest about the treatment that they had received. So she went back up to London, and she said, well, don't worry, I'm not going to get beaten up this time, I'm going to break a window. And we think that was the first illegal act she did. She broke a window in a police station, which is the police station where her sister had been arrested. And as a result, she was arrested. The sister was actually not kept in prison, but Mary was in prison for a month. And during that time, she went on hunger strike, and she was forcibly fed, which was a dreadful, cruel process, which injured an awful lot. A lot of suffragettes became disabled as a result of it. And she left prison on that 23rd of December, and she died on Christmas Day, 1910, of a brain hemorrhage, almost certainly as a result of a head injury. At some point during that, the suffragettes at the time, Emmeline, believed it had been what happened on Black Friday, that she had sustained some sort of injury then, which had resulted in a death afterwards. So that is a tragic end. But she was a wonderful woman. The accounts of her are, she inspired such love and affection amongst the young suffragettes. And she talked about her apprentices, and she said, we have to pass it on. Us older ones, we can go to prison. We can pass this on to the younger ones, and they'll do things for us, and they will make the changes. And that's what we wanted to get across in the statue. We wanted to get across the idea of things being passed on. So although she died, she passed something on. And one of the things, that's where the idea of the lamp comes in, and I'm sure Denise will say more about that. That she has laid a lamp down for others to pick up. So yes. I'm sorry, that's a bit of a ramble.
No, that's absolutely perfect. I say, because that is one of my questions when we talked to Denise a bit about features of Mary's life in the final statue, and I can see it behind you there. We'll have a look at that later. But I can see the lamp behind you there on the maquette. So, is that where the idea of the lamp comes from? So when you So yeah,
I was going to say it's partly that, but also after she died, a woman called Isabella McEwen, who used to live in Preston Drove, another Brighton suffragette, she said at Mary's memorial meeting, which actually took place in the Royal Pavilion, she said, it's quite old-fashioned language. She said, they should not mourn in silence. In other words, be sad. They should not mourn in silence, but take up the torch and light the darkness.
Oh, okay.
And that was we thought with that concern that Mary had for young people and passing things on, and Isabella's comment, we thought that came together. So we wanted the image of the torch, and when we commissioned Denise, that was one of the bits of information we gave her to somehow, respond to that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So who said that quote? Sorry, that's
Isabella McEwen.
Okay, I'll write that down. Actually, we can look her up as well. McEwen.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's really good. So you gave that kind of background to Denise, and then, hi Denise.
Hi.
Hi. So I assume you hadn't, Mary wasn't in your sphere of knowledge about suffragettes either, I guess.
No, she wasn't. She was peculiarly absent. Yeah,
it's a really intriguing story for us, particularly living in Brighton as well. So you're a sculptor who's based in not Brighton, are you?
No, I'm based in the Midlands in Stoke-on-Trent.
Brilliant. So you got approached by Jean. Sorry, Jean, go back to, so your background in Brighton, Jean, is it just an individual that you wanted to set up this sculpture?
Yeah, I'd sort of done all my working life had been doing stuff around women's rights, children's safety, those sorts of things. So it linked in with that. I was very interested in the fact that she was somebody who'd had a very bad marriage. She didn't have her husband was not not a very good man, in the same way that, you know, Emmeline's husband was very supportive. Mary's definitely wasn't. He was abusive, and she managed to get away from him. And so that linked in some ways with the work that I'd done. And in fact, with many of the women we started to organize with. So, but I yes, was sort of centrally involved in setting up the appeal. And so I'm now officially the chair of it.
Okay.
Chair of trustees.
I was going to say, so that's one thing we didn't touch on there. So she did, like I say, she was brave in all those other respects for standing up for women's rights and the things that she actually did. But I guess she was brave in the fact that she escaped like a bullying kind of marriage at home, wasn't she? So
for her time, it was so difficult to leave. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So Denise, hello. So Jean approached you, and then could you talk us through like the process of that happening? So it's a bit like me at school, where I've approached the children, if you like, to hello, here's this artist here. Think about a social issue that you're interested in. Now take it from there. So I guess that's a similar thing, isn't it? But in a more grown-up kind of context. But so how do you run with that? What's the first thing you do when you have that kind of?
Well, Jean first sent me a background information about Mary, and also then sculptor's notes of suggestions of what they would like to be have incorporated within the sculpture. Okay. So obviously the quotes were in that, and lots of details, because she was very much into was it enameling flowers, wasn't she, and decorative detail. So that was that really was a lovely engagement. And then I went away and did some drawings based on, I had actually had images of a dress which I had hired before from this lady, Nottie Hornblower, of around about the right period. And I did the sketches of her in it. It's actually changed since then, because I discovered that it's slightly out of her time frame. So we changed the dress, and you can see between the two maquettes that there's a bit of a difference. So researching the clothes was important. Obviously, to do the first sketch, I just had the rough idea, and I had this beautiful dress which I incorporated, and then started to work on some of the other ideas that were in the brief and expand on them.
I've just got a picture there, the sketch. So is this one of the initial kind of drawings around that? Yes. Around that period? Is it?
That's right, yes.
Okay.
And the dress is well, actually, I've amalgamated two things, because we like the elements. We love the decorative element of the dress. It really exemplifies some of her interest in craft. So, for example, you can see round her neck, there's going to be violets there, which are for remembrance, and not for forgetting. I think it's, I can't remember exactly what the violets are for, but I think it's for remembrance. And then we've got, on the bottom of the skirt, you can see that there are arrows from her prison stay. But again, we've developed and gone on from that, because I've incorporated the arrows into a design on the finished piece, rather than be a stark arrow, because they were quite ugly things, the arrows in the prison. I still don't quite understand why they had to sew them on.
Okay, yeah, okay. What are those though? What were they? So I guess, like I said, so there's no photos of Mary, are there, at all? I imagine
there are a couple. Yes, there's one. There's a beautiful photograph which is behind Jean, and behind the statue you can see, and that's a lovely portrait of her that was done in a photographer's studio. And there's another one, and there's some couple which are very grainy. But the problem with photographs that are done in a studio, they're trying to flatter you, and they take a lot of the detail away. So it's been quite a tricky detective way of trying to build up her face from those images.
Yeah, I bet. No, that's really hard. That's so you're trying to build up her face, her physique, if you like, and then incorporate points that kind of she represented her, I guess. So.
Represented her, yes.
Yeah, that's amazing with how you've gone from that. So I might be able to find this one of those second sketches. Hang on, rough sketch A. Let me share this one. So let me stop sharing that one. I've got another one to come. This one. So that's.
That was the rough sketch where we started from, because we wanted to incorporate the lamp and the idea of passing it on. And this was her sort of moving forward and giving the lamp to somebody else. But it was felt really that the lamp, that was too much like another sculpture of Florence Nightingale. So
that's interesting, because obviously in Balfour, so they do Florence Nightingale, so that has been looked, when we do Victorian.
Yes.
So that's
So
yes.
The tie was possibly too close with that, with her actually holding the lamp, and in a way she's not able to physically pass on the lamp in life. So putting it down actually gives that little break where she's now given up the lamp for somebody else to take on and carry on with. And we had the beginnings of the quotes on the base, but they've gone on to the whole quotes now. I mean, this is a very small, rough sketch.
It's interesting because that is actually a sketch there, isn't it? So that's not a model there, is it? Such that
yes, it is a model.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to say, so that's the first. So from that sketch there to that model there, and that's made of clay, I assume.
It's made of a substance called plastiline. It's like plasticine, but it's a grown-ups version.
I like that. I like that.
So yes, this is in 3D, and we call this a maquette. And that actually means sketch. So it's a sculptor's sketch, if you like. A lot of sculptors don't tend to put things down into drawings, but they go straight into a 3D model, which is called a maquette for us, our sketch.
That's a fantastic piece of learning. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's like a technical skill as well. That's interesting. So I'm thinking about the children at school there, but what we've probably done without knowing it is we have made maquettes. We've done a drawing, then we made a tiny model with that. Yeah, that's. And how long would it take roughly for you to make that kind of maquette there? Because it's very intricate, even though it's dimensions.
Many hours.
I was going to say that's phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal.
Time.
So do you then pass that back to Jean and say, is this the thing you're looking for? Have a discussion, or?
Yes, exactly. With this one, it went. Actually, I think it was slightly different before this one, and they did some changes. That's it. We did got to this stage, and then Jean and the committee had a look at it, and they decided from there that, say, the lamp was in the hand, and maybe it was too like Florence Nightingale, and there were some other little bits here and there, and so we then went back. I went back and changed them in the rough maquette to what you just saw then, and then I went on to the big piece.
Okay, so that's that picture there. That's another kind of angle of that first maquette, isn't it? So yes. If I pull up another picture, hang on a second. So I've got finished maquette A. I'll go for that. Hang on. So let's share. And here we go. Coming away there. So can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, brilliant. So that one there. So you've gone from that first maquette to this one. Oh, okay. So even I can see how the lamp has now moved to be more of like a symbolic, and that's fascinating, isn't it? Because, like you say, she couldn't physically have passed that lamp on, but no. that's having it down there as a proper, like, passing it to the next generation, isn't it? So
it would. Sorry.
No, and the quote along the bottom, I can't read that there, so I might find another one. So it's gone from suffragette to, what does that say along the bottom there? Is that
says take the torch. That's appropriate with the lamp. And I think this is before we actually changed, because you wanted to make sure the quotes were absolutely correct. So they're slightly this is again the final, and then with wording you want it to be exact, so we went backwards and forwards, didn't we, Jean, to make sure that it was absolutely the right quote.
I'm not surprised. That's a lot of kind of backwards. So how long ago did the whole project start, actually, put it in context of?
Well, I don't know when you started, Jean, but for the physical actually modelling, I started last February, I think, on this piece, and then there were a few other changes as well. And I think I brought it down to you in, was it end of July or August? I think it was around about then. But we'd started on the road to what we were doing a year previously to that. So it's been quite a little while.
Yeah. I think that's the key thing.
Can I make a comment? Because one of the things, I think, a very difficult task that we set for Denise, I mean, it was all difficult because of the lack of images and so on, but photographs. But one of the things we said is that we wanted her to somehow convey her gentleness as well as her strength. And those two things are actually really difficult to convey. And a lot of the discussion back and forth about the clothing and the demeanor and so on was about exactly that. We'd had before we engaged Denise, there'd been previous discussion about other designs, and they had been, in a sense, too gentle.
Okay.
And so they can be, it veered between perhaps a bit too heroic and a bit too gentle. And we think she's got it dead right now. But it was, we're very aware, we gave her a very hard task, because this is not an easy thing to convey, is that sense of gentleness and strength at the same time, and courage.
That's incredibly hard, isn't it? No, definitely. So
and you can see the discussion going on through the two maquettes, because the first maquette was a little bit more forthright, wasn't it? But we wanted it, just calm that down a bit, but also make sure that she'd still got the strength.
Yeah.
What is that over her arm, out of interest? Because I know that'd be one of the questions the children have there. So is that symbolic, or is that a literal?
It's a newspaper. It's the Votes for Women that she used to sell.
That's what she sell on Brighton Seafront.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And that particular issue will be a copy of the one that came out that described the Black Friday riots.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So on the final thing, that'd be really obvious, I guess, won't it? What that is on the. So
yes.
What dimensions are we talking? I'm thinking. So we've got. How tall is that maquette? Is that behind you, Jean? So behind you.
Yes.
See, that's that, isn't it? So yes. So let me unshare the screen.
In old money, it's about 19 inches. What's that?
I've got my ruler here. Yeah. So, but you can see behind you there, Jean, can't be the size of it. So, and so what scale, kind of upscaling, do you envision that to be in the final sculpture?
Want me to take that? Yeah, when you do life-size sculptures outside, it's always life and a quarter, because when you make somebody if you make somebody life-size and they're usually it's a darkish patina because of the metal, you're also taking their life out of them, because it's an inanimate object, and it reduces the size. So the idea is the life and a quarter, it just bulks it up slightly, and it's the best way to show a sculpture in the environment.
That's fascinating. I was thinking, because the last half term we had in October, I went on a day trip with the children to London, and we ended up at Parliament Square, and we're looking at all the the sculptures there. And you do look at them, don't you? You think, okay, that's clearly larger, but I wondered how many kind of sizes up. So I guess as a rule, life and a quarter. That's fascinating.
Yes, I mean, there's a little bit of shrinkage in the bronze as well. So if you did it life size, you're going to get it slightly smaller as well. I mean, we have an example in Stoke-on-Trent of Stanley Matthews, and there was a sculpture that was done life size, and he looks so diminutive. He's tiny.
So I know a little bit about him. He was quite small anyway, wasn't he? Yeah. So he's
so even smaller.
So, yeah, that's fascinating. Honestly, that. So where are you now in the stage? So you've done the maquette there, and then so that's what's behind you there, Jean, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you got pictures of the of this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the next stage is getting the funding to produce the actual sculpture to go outside Brighton Pavilion. Is that correct?
Well, we hope so. That's our preferred option, is to be by the entrance to the museum, because we know that every child in Brighton goes in there on their school trips.
Yeah.
And also because every visitor, every resident will walk past it. But having said that, we have to say that there will be a planning application, and we may not be successful. So if we're not successful, then it will be as close to that as we can get, because the dome was in 2018, it was declared a site of national suffrage interest, because there was some investigation by Historic England, and they actually found there'd been so many meetings there by the suffragettes that it should be designated as such. So in all sorts of ways, it's linked. Mary spoke in the dome and so on. So that's our preferred site, and it's very sunny. But it's not a done deal yet. But we do know we've got the support of the council across the board. We've got all political parties are supporting, so that it's in that respect, it's the appeal's been very well supported.
That's really good to hear, is it? Because you can't imagine where anybody would have any issue with it at all, can you really? So,
Yeah.
but
we
it's
do
good,
need
but
money.
it's the planning. Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, excellent. I was just thinking there. So, Denise, have you had experience of doing a suffragette previously? Did I
have.
read that? Yeah. Which one was? Who was that? Was that?
It was Annie Kenny.
That's it. She was the lady who died underneath a horse, isn't it? So she threw herself on a horse race.
No,
That's
she
not
didn't.
her.
No, that's Emily Wilding Davidson.
Oh, okay. So where's that sculpture?
Yes, Annie Kenny. She's in Oldham, and she was a mill worker. He ended up being one of the first to be put into jail, along with Christabel Pankhurst up in Manchester, because the Pankhursts lived in Manchester to begin with. But I'm sure it would begin with. I know they went down to London at one point, didn't they? So she then, because she was then made, she was refused work. She wasn't allowed back to work because that was something you just didn't do.
No.
She ended up living with the Pankhursts, and Emmeline sent her down to London to start campaigning and speak to all the ladies in the East End, which is a phenomenal thing if you think about it, being sent from Oldham. It was a tiny village where she lived, and then being sent down to London to start campaigning. But the lovely connections is that didn't she, Jane? She knew Mary because she was with the family. She planted a tree, a memorial for her. So that was a lovely connection for me. Is that one led on to another.
That's fantastic. That's really good. And did you know that, Jean, before you approached Denise about that background at all?
I knew that she'd done the statue of Annie Kenny, which is lovely, yes.
Yeah.
But we didn't know about the tree at the time. That's, these bits of information keep, and they are fascinating. So our ideal would be to be able to in some way have that small tree somewhere around the statue, if it's possible, because it would just be that historic connection.
Gosh, yes, that'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? That's amazing. Thank you very much for your time. I think that's going to open the children's eyes, I think, for a lot of issues, and we can carry that forward as well. So when I'm going to ask the children to do an activity, and what I will do is when I get feedback from them, I will pass it on to you. So
that'd be lovely.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be lovely. Well, I was thinking, if any artwork that people do, any poems they might write, anything like that, we'd love to see.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. We would love to share that. Whatever gallery we can think of, so we can be in touch about that. Thank you.
Just one thing, I noticed you haven't talked about the quotes around the bottom, or
please do.
Plinth.
Yeah.
And I just wonder whether
I might have another
that's
picture.
something they might want to ask about.
Yes, let's have another picture.
Yes, because that date is incorrect. That was one of the things wrong.
Okay. That's the kind of thing I would do, put the wrong date on something. Yeah. Have a look. Hey, what's
that's a good lesson to learn. Check everything.
So that one there. So it was 1864.
No, that's right, isn't it? That is right. Oh no, it's not. It says 1990.
It's 1910.
1910 was it? You said, is it 1910?
Yes, it should be 1910. The trouble is, when you're doing lettering, you get so much into what you're doing that sometimes you can just go off.
Yeah. Just thinking of the Great War.
Or somewhere wrong. Like I've got 19 and then I've repeated it. Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but that's all correct now.
What was let me pull up another one. I've got. Oh, what's on? Hang on, let me share this one. Hang on. Have a look.
Have you got any pictures of the actual bronze?
Bronze, yes.
That'll have the correct.
Yes.
We changed the quotes around so that they worked with each side. So the lamp carries the lamp quote. So they aren't. This is the maquette almost finished, but with a few tweaks. It can still read it.
So the quote for lamp is on. Yeah, I
If
haven't
you can
got
find
that.
a bronze, you haven't got a bronze image. Let's
Not
see.
with the, no, sorry, not on my,
Oh.
not on this system. No, sorry, but I can share that with the children definitely.
Yes, if you can. I mean, what that does. There's the quote from Isabella McEwen now sits. That's the one about taking the torch and lighting the darkness. That is now on the side of the where the lamp actually is, and on the
Okay.
back there's a statement from another suffragette leader, which says that calls her the first woman martyr who has gone to death for this cause, because that's what she was called at the time, after by this Emmeline Pethick Lawrence referred to her as the first woman martyr.
Okay.
And then her own words. So there are very few of Mary's own words, but on the other side, it's she says, "I'm glad to pay the price of freedom," which we thought is a lovely quote. And she said it actually when she'd been convicted and she was going to prison. And of course, she didn't know she was going to die. She thought she was paying the price in this period of imprisonment. But we don't know how ill she felt, whether she had some premonition. But they are, very suitable words to have there. And then on top, where Denise has put the implements to do with forcible feeding from the prison, there's a quote from her sister,
Okay.
from Emmeline Pankhurst, saying she is the first to die, how many must follow. So it's actually quite, if you can get the photographs and you can actually see the detail of that, it's Denise has done it beautifully. It really is.
I'll go through my images again and pick out the ones with the lettering, the correct lettering on the top, because I've only just realised it's not on that one. So I do apologise.
That's really good. You can send those to me, and I could share those with the children. Absolutely.
Sorry.
No, sorry. I was going to check. The quote was, "I'm glad to pay the price of freedom." Was that the quote?
That's right.
Okay. I'm ask the children see if they can remember that one. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I can't thank you enough. Honestly, the children will love watching this. I'm going to pause the video from the children, but stay on the call. That's okay. So let me just come out here and say thank you on behalf of all the children.
Well, thank you.
No, absolutely. Honestly, they will get so much from that. They will get the. So I hope they've been listening. Year 3. And this might be shared for the rest of the school as well. I think there's absolutely no reason why everybody else in the school can't enjoy this as well. So thank you, Year 3. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.